What's up guys, back with another train log and Q&A. Today I want to talk about something that's fundamental to powerlifting. How do you choose your accessories and variations? They've been a big part of my program going so smooth, 3 weeks out from nationals now, and excited to see what I can hit. I'm going to go over the 3 main criteria I choose accessories based upon. You want to be targeted with this, you can't just do everything. I mean, I did try that once, legit. I had all these different deadlift variations and didn't want to miss any of them. So I did them all and ended up doing 51 sets per week on deadlifts, as I mentioned in my last video. 3 different days, 17 sets each day. Yeah. Anyways, the first criteria, and the main one I use for choosing variations, is to work form. Pause squats to work on control at the bottom, pause deadlifts for start position, etc. Form is obviously a huge part of powerlifting, and variations are arguably the best way to work form. While form cues can help, it can be a lot easier to teach somebody something with a variation. Like, no better way to get a feel for balance at the bottom of your squat than having to actually pause there and stay balanced. Plus, sometimes when weights are hard, you can't really think too much of cues without throwing off your strength, so variations are a great way to work your form. My second criteria for choosing accessories is building certain muscles. Bigger muscles will make you stronger. In fact, research suggests it's the majority of strength gains over the long term. So my basic training philosophy is SBD and close variations of them, save for a few top sets to get used to heavier weights, should be done more submaximal and focused on the neurological gains of strength. And then you can focus on hypertrophy with less fatiguing, more stable and isolating movements, push closer to failure. Now, how you spread out your level of work per muscle will depend. For example, on my bench, I can handle a ton of volume, so I don't really do any pec work. But on squats and deadlifts, I'm not doing nearly as much. My glutes I find get enough work, but I do isolation work for my hamstrings and quads. Other muscles like the upper back and triceps can contribute, but may not get worked well at all on your main lifts, so you may need some work on their own as well. You can have certain weaknesses or strengths as well. If your posterior chain is way ahead of your quads, you may want to save some systemic fatigue to cut posterior chain work for more quad hypertrophy. And speaking of hypertrophy, Tasty Gains, sponsor of this video, has been a huge help. They make these genuinely delicious creatine gummies, none of that gritty creatine taste, third-party tested so you know you're actually getting the doses they claim, and also not failing any drug tests like my most recent one. Creatine also leads to a 1/3 increase in the rate of muscle gain over time. You can grab some at the link in the description and pinned comment. Thanks again to Tasty Gains. Now, my last criteria for picking accessories is one that often isn't considered. It's load management. This can be just general variation to handle more workload while preventing overuse, but it could be variations like high bar to use less posterior chain, or Larsen press where there's no leg drive and less stability so we can't load it as hard. These are variations that are less taxing on our body, so we can get more skill practice in without as much fatigue, but they can also be useful for people dealing with injuries. Oftentimes, we can do some variation that will carry over well to our main lift while working around injuries. For example, recently I had a client doing some low incline bench which was completely pain-free even though his shoulders were really hurt on regular competition bench press. Anyways, that was my training rant of the week. Comment more questions you have down below as I'm going to begin the Q&A session. So the first one, good question, is minimal hip rise on deadlifts okay? So I definitely err towards going too low rather than too high. If you set them too high, you'll never break the floor unless you really round your back to the point you're definitely not going to be able to lock out. If you set them too low though, they can rise to the proper height. And if you do have them rise, you want to make sure it's quick so you aren't throwing off position too much or wasting energy before the bar actually breaks the floor. Next question, recommendations for training with tendonitis. So tendonitis is one of those things where you don't want to completely rest, as that actually makes it worse. What I find is a useful workaround is doing slow velocity variations, things like tempo work or pauses. Tendon strain is based off weight and speed we move it at, link to that down below. So these slow movements can help ease pain. You can often work at pretty high intensities on these just fine. Plus, eccentrics may help with rehabbing tendonitis, link to studies on that below as well. Anyway, see the description and pinned comment below for where to contact me for coaching and programs. That's it for the video, guys. Please like, comment more questions down below, and subscribe if you haven't already. And once again, thanks for watching.